Check something over here real quick. Okay, that looks good. My name is Terry Morgan. We're here to practice Wudang Qigong. We have foundation sets this morning, and today, November 16th, Thursday, 2023, that date and what we're doing today is part of a little bit of a change that I'm making in what we're doing in this class. So as we've been practicing, my focus is usually on the movements and how we're doing them, what we've been doing, the different postures, working with each of the movements. That's not going to change. Don't worry about that. That's not going to change. What I am going to change just a little bit is the notion of what we do in foundation practice. So the idea has been that I took the first set of 18, right? I divided it up. I said, this is 9, these 9 go here, and these 10 go over here. And I created this foundations class and the advanced class. In all of those classes, we have focused on particular elements of foundation practice, particular elements of more advanced practice, so that through the exercises we develop both sets of skills, the foundation skills that we need and the more advanced skills to raise the level of practice. As we're doing that, as I've been doing that, one of the things that's missing, one of the things that's missing is a series that pays attention to much more literal foundations. What are we doing in Qigong practice? What's Qi thing? Why should I learn about Qi? What's this? Why this breathe in, breathe out stuff? Yeah. Right? I was that way at one time. It wasn't athletic enough for me. I wanted something that was going to be a little more physically demanding. I didn't realize at the time how physically demanding Qigong can be. But that was my perception. That was what I saw. That was all I knew. So part of what I'm going to start paying a little bit more attention to is just that foundation. What's Qigong? What's this Qigong thing? I've had someone ask me about that. That Qigong thing? What is that Qigong? It was a question that I thought was understandably a little bit odd and a little bit showing that the person had no exposure. They had no idea. They'd seen something, they'd heard something. Beyond that, nope. They wanted to know. But they didn't know how to say it. I will be one of the first to say, when I first learned Mandarin, my pronunciation was horrible. It was bad. It was really bad. Now, it's, 我可以说话. 有别人给我说呢，我可以听懂，也可能不知道，你会汉语，你听懂我吗？你可以听明白我？如果可以呢，那很好。那你也可能看，你也可能听。我的语言，我说一点拼啊，这是河南的，因为我好多年我来回，我在河南省郑州市，就是我的耳朵听别人说话，我也想给他们说话，我想和他们一起一样的说。如果我在北京，我的发音必须注意多，我要慢一点儿，因为我要想我的发音是可以吗？是北京人可以听我吗？北京人听到我的，他们想什么？I'm talking about whether or not my pronunciation is correct for the area that I stayed in near Henan and Zhengzhou, where I wanted to communicate with the people in that area, my friends, my teacher, my classmates. And so when I spoke, when I learned the language, I wanted to speak like them. I listened to what they said. I tried to match what I said to what they were saying. So as I learned the words, as I learned the language, I tried to match what they did. Same thing in class. Same thing in martial arts class. Tried to match what they did. And sometimes that could be difficult. That could be extremely difficult. That's the point. We develop what we have based on what we're presented with. What are the foundations? What do you have in mind when you think about the way this movement or that movement or this exercise, that exercise, this form, that form, what do you have in mind when you think about the way it should be done? What's your ideal model for the way this form, whatever this form is, the way it should be? Put this down and get started. All right. That model, and I've talked about that quite a bit, comes from your foundations. It comes from your practice. It comes from paying attention to what the foundations, the fundamentals for practice are. Because if your fundamentals are strong, if your basic body movements are well placed, well balanced, well coordinated, then everything else will flow through and will be sustained. If you don't have a basic foundation, building on top of it isn't going to be stable. That sense of, we need a basic stretch here. Feet about shoulder width apart. Bend the knees just a little, and then straighten, not stiff, just a little. Stay bent. Relax the hip, relax the arms, relax through the shoulders, pull up through the crown of the head. Hand circle to the front, back around to both sides, up along the center line. Stretch through the body. Bend the knees. Reach out over the legs. Bend through the hips, not through the waist. Roll up. Reach up again and stretch out. Roll over the top of the leg. And one more time. Relax as you roll up. Extend the arms. Keep the shoulders down. Elbows drop down. Wrists, hands return to your sides. And stay there for just a second. Relax. This basic stretch, and lose the sweater here for a second. This basic stretch takes two things that I learned. One, the stretch itself and the series that goes with came from my studies with Wudang Qigong. The other is from dance, and in developing the body skills, the movement skills that we want for dance, we need to be as flexible as possible. That flexibility, that skill, that development of that skill is foundation for whatever movement we're going to do. In modern dance, there's a lot of floor work as preparation. There's a lot of stretching. In ballet, floor work, stretching, and then we start normally with the bar, the ballet bar. All right, then we do open floor work. In the martial arts, we start with standing. Just standing. As we progress, I showed this yesterday, horse stance, right? And we develop additional skills to go with. That element of additional skills is one of the things that we want to cultivate in Qigong, in the breathing classes. And we have a series of movements that become progressively more complicated, more difficult to do, that give us an opportunity to focus on individual portions. I'm going to use, I was looking for a word there, segments, portions, you pick one, of practice. At the very beginning, right? The movement is very simple outwardly. It becomes increasingly complex as we develop the internal workmanship that goes with. As we breathe in, breathe out, bend the knees, right? I'm just showing just a little bit. As I breathe in, I want to pay attention to pulling up through the Yongchuan to the heel, up the back of the legs, up through the shoulders, and back down. Also at the same time, from the lower Dantian, down through the Huiyin, up the back, and back down the front, with the connection here at the Renmai. The Renmai and the Dumai. This is the Renjung, Renmai. That connection, along with those two, that's the large heavenly circle and the small heavenly circle, the tiny heavenly circle in the lower Dantian, that turns in the same direction. So down, around, Here. Okay, the circle. Down the front, up the back. Except there's two. And they work together. So that each is moving in harmony with the other. Up the back, up the back, up the back, all right? They stay connected and moving. This element of practice is something that is particular to what Professor Lute taught and to what I've learned in Wudang Qigong. This is the idea that the lower dantian, Qi Hai, Sea of Qi, is represented by the yin-yang symbol, the two swimming fish, and that they are separate and together. The idea that they move separately and together is something that Professor Liu not only taught but was really good at. That level of development, the level of development that he had cultivated. He's still around, so I'm talking about when I was studying with him in China. Alright, so he's still here. I still am in contact with him. So his level is the result of what he did in his something 60 years of practice. And it's also the result of his environment. What was he asked to do? What was the standard that he was compared to? And I am going to talk about that real quick, just because. In competition, I have to give a score. If I'm judging, I have to give a score. If I'm competing, I have to get a score. What should I expect for what kind of performance? At one point, the scoring method was fairly rigorous. If you were going to get an 8, you were doing good. You were really good. If anything over 8 was really good. Nobody got 9s. It didn't. Maybe once in a blue moon, somebody might show up and they were having a really good day and they get a 9 something. Didn't happen very often. High 8, 8, 9, 8, 8. Yeah. 9. That was tough. And as we progressed and things happened and things changed, and then it became, well, you know, anybody in this division should be getting a 9 something, right? Don't, there's 8, no, this is 9s. Okay, we're going to score all these people 9 something. Yeah, but they're not doing a level that I would give a 9. That level of expertise, that level of performance, no. Some of them even maybe get a 7, 6 from me, right? Not a 9. I know what I'm looking at. I've seen quite a bit. That experience, and I talked about this previously, that experience gives me an insight that someone without that experience doesn't have. Professor Liu's study, his experience gives him skills that I can see, but would never have. At the time that I was in China, I was already an adult, so some of the things that I would have needed to learn as a child wasn't going to happen. I was also visiting the environment. Even though I lived there, I was still a visitor. I wasn't there for years at a time. Didn't happen. That experience was different. What I had to do while I was there, there's quite a bit that I remember, and there's quite a bit that we could talk about. As I gained the understanding that comes from that experience, I began to see more clearly some of the things that Professor Liu was teaching. Right? This ability to stand here. Yes. Foundations. As we circulate the energy, as we develop the internal workmanship, internal placement, body placement, shoulders over the hips, elbows with the knees, legs straight but not stiff, feet well placed, body well supported through the center. All of those things contribute to my being able to stand here. Circulate up the back, down the front, large heavenly circle, the small heavenly circle, and both elements, yin and yang, in the tiny heavenly circle. Ladies, right hand on the outside, gentlemen, left hand on the outside. Pay attention to what you're doing inwardly. Relax the body, relax the breath, and breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in, up the back. Breathe out, down the front. All three. Breathe in. The breath should be smooth and continuous throughout the movement. Open the arms. Open through the middle dantian. Press down. Open the back. Even as you press down through the front, open the back. Two more. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. And breathe in last time. Hands separate, down along both sides, pull up through the crown of the head, raise the heels and lower. Stay there, breathe in. And breathe out. And breathe in. And breathe out. Push takes part of the energy that been cultivating, and extends it outward and then brings it back. So this circle, as we push to both sides, feet back, shoulder width apart, stand straight, pull up through the crown of the head, breathe in, palms up, and breathe out, press down. Pay attention to the inward circles, all three of them. And as you push out, the circle that's part of that push. Up the back and out and down the front. Come back to center. Keep the shoulders open as you shift. Pay attention to the outer edge of the arms, outer edges. Pay attention to the circle. Up the back, both legs. Up the back through the torso. Down the front. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. And breathe out. Pay attention to the lower dantian. Nice and easy. Up the back, down the front, up the back, down the front, up the back, down the front. Breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. Two more. Focus inwardly. Quiet the breath. Pay attention to the circle. Connect the body. Come back to center. Hands down along both sides. Pull up through the crown of the head. Raise the heels and lower. Stay there. Breathe in. Breathe out. Same idea, the same connection with hand strum the lute. This circle up the back and the extension as this up the back, around the front, in and out. Keep the breath relaxed. Pay attention to all of the circles. pay attention to the circle through the arms as we're moving. Feet about shoulder width apart. Stand straight. Pull up through the crown of the head. Breathe in. Breathe out. Shift right. Open left. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathe in. Breathe out. Shift left. Open right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Come back to center. Shift right. Up the back. Along the leg. Extend through the arms. Pay attention to the upper dantian. Pay attention to the Yung Chuan as the foot is up. Relax the movement. Relax the breath. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Focus on the lower dantian. Smile. Breathe in. And turn. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Focus on the small heavenly circle. Up to back. Down in front. Breathe in. Breathe out. 2 more. Pull in and up through the center. Use the waist to extend the arms. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in from the center. Hands down along both sides. Pull up through the crown of the head. Raise the heels and lower. Stay there. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Okay, we're going to stop with this exercise for today. This idea, and I'm talking about this just for a second, the idea that we use the waist to open the arms. As my arms come here to open, this pulls down to trigger the arm to go up. It pulls in and down, the arm goes up. That equal and opposite reaction, that's part of what happens with that particular area. So that, I have talked about this quite a bit. The knowledge that you have of physiology and anatomy, this medical science, right? It's anatomy and physiology books, textbooks. Dancers study it, people who play sports study it, everybody, it's one of the things that we learn. As we get more adept at what we're doing, we develop more skill in isolating and using particular muscle groups, particular sets of muscles. we also develop, particularly in Qigong and all of the internal and everything that I teach, the connections, so that as I'm moving my waist, I'm moving the other hip, I'm also, it's all connected, it's all joined together. It's not just this one thing. But that ability to move just that one thing, I gave some isolation sets in foundations class. That ability to isolate body parts and move them independently gives us the ability to move them in combinations. It's a side effect. It's not necessarily, that's what we learn, that's what we pay attention to, and I'm going to separate all of this, and it is how we learn. We separate all of it, then we put it back together. That skill, dancers learn it. I've talked about that quite a bit. Today's class was a little bit maybe more advanced than some of what I've been doing. This idea that we've got these pathways, channels and meridians, denshe, the pressure points, the idea that there is this internal energy, that qi, jing, shen, that we have, that we can use and cultivate, is something that goes back about 3,000 years or so to the Yellow Emperor's Book of Traditional Medicine. It's a long, long, long history. Chinese traditional medicine has that history. We have similar things. We have not exactly the same. We have similar things in ancient Western medicine. We had, the West had medicine at the time too. That system, this is what we had in the West, this is what we had in China. That difference in the way that we look at body functions, the way that we pay attention to the physical body as well as the internal body has changed. It's changed quite a bit. It's changed a lot over those 3,000 years. It has. Today we know that, not exactly. They had a part of it. There was a piece of it. In the martial arts, we pay attention to, I'm Chinese traditional martial arts, so I'm paying attention to what came out of the tradition in China. That, if it was Japanese, I'd be paying attention to that tradition. I would. That perspective makes all the difference in what we're doing. It makes all the difference in how we look at whatever it is we're doing. And it makes a difference in the depth of knowledge that we may or may not have. Some of it is learned. Some of it is cultural norm. My practice in the U.S. was not the same as my practice in China. It wasn't. The expectation, the normal level of practice in China, as I was using the example the other day, this is the NBA, the WNBA, way up here. The normal level of practice in the U.S., okay? Depends on what you're doing, right? There are so many things that are part of what we should do in practice. that are not a 5-minute conversation. It's not, I can do this all in one class. It's learned over time. It's being exposed to this idea. It's being exposed to this circumstance. It's being introduced to this concept, which may or may not have shown up previously, but here it is now, right? That sense of continuing learning, that there's always something more, is one of the things that I personally have valued in all of my studies. I'm trying to get to packaging some of that more. Today's class was part of that. So we covered this whole idea of perspective, that we have different perspectives, that it's fine, that we learn and develop as a result of whatever our perspective is. It's process. In Qigong practice, that we have all of these internal things going on that are not outwardly visible, and that without some level of explanation are never going to be understood. I can talk about move this foot, move this hand all day long, and you will never understand what it is you're really supposed to be doing in the exercise unless I explain it. That takes a little bit of practice on my part, and it takes a little bit of introduction. So if I start talking about, the Yongchuan and the Jiaogun and Yu Lao Gong, and if you don't understand what that is, this was at the beginning, I go, what is this Qigong stuff, right? If you don't understand what that is, it's meaningless. It has to be introduced. It's at some point, if you're going to develop the skills, you have to have been introduced to the foundations that go with those skills. It's not foot placement alone that matters. I appreciate your time today. I appreciate those who are following me. Thank you so much. I'll be back tomorrow with the advanced sets.